Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another stream. Hope you all had a good, relaxing weekend, able to get out and enjoy some of the nice, bright weather. Hopefully not have too much going on in your lives that is bad, or even that's good, because sometimes we all need a little bit of a break. For today's stream, we're going to take a bit of a different approach compared to what we've been doing the last few days. We're going to focus harder on strategy. We're going to try to make sure that when we are going for compositions, that we're taking the right approach. And to be honest, we want to make sure that what we're doing fits our playstyle. With that, I'd like to welcome you all to the stream. And let's get started. So, since it's a bit of a longer load time for the night, how's everybody doing this evening? Hope you all had a nice weekend. I know personally I was able to get out yesterday. It was a little bit windy, a little bit brisk, but still really nice to get out for a good walk. Especially in these COVID times, it's always important to be able to get up, stretch your legs, go outside a little bit. And welcome back to the stream again, not tonight. How's tonight looking for you? Delicious. Who doesn't love pizza on a Sunday night? I'm good, thank you. Had a nice, enjoyable weekend. Ended up playing a nice, fun board game, Ticket to Ride Europe, with the family. It was great. Now for tonight's stream, I'm going to be doing something very, very similar to what you know, but with a little bit more of an edge to it. I'm going to be playing as strategic as I can, making sure I'm maximizing my time between rolling, between positioning, itemization, and I want to go as strongly as I can on these itemizations as well as positioning to give me the biggest advantage going into these games. That is a lot of Kalistas. Okay. So, in the event that I end up using Kalista, I definitely don't want to, I don't want to have an items component stuck on her. So let's see, in terms of power and efficiency in the game, I already have a decent front line here. I could look to play Riven potentially. Either with 6 Legionnaires or with Abominations to supplement. Could also look to play Set if I find some Dragon or some Draconic units. Either way, I think I want to level here, and I think I want to end up throwing in Warwick for 2 Brawler. I think the biggest thing that I need, regardless of what composition I'm going to end up going, is I need a sword. Because I really, really want to get a Bloodthirster here. Also, not tonight, I know you're a big Hellion fan, so you'll be happy to know that Hellions are back on the menu. They are one of the stronger compositions in the game at the moment, and what you end up doing is instead of constantly rolling to find more of them, you just end up playing your Hellions, getting 2 stars, and then when you get them to 2 stars, you level like normal, but you want to try to stay ahead of the game, so you can end up picking up a Teemo and replace the Ziggs with it. I don't think this is a game for me to be going for that in particular, but it's definitely one to look out for, that's for sure. So to feel good about ourselves in this game, all we really need is a sword. No, for sure. I'll definitely be looking to try it in another game, but you need to have at least the 3 Hellions by like stage 2-1 at the start. Because even though I have, for example, 2 in the shop here, I've already used most of my gold getting a 2-star Kalista, a 2-star Warwick. That it's not really good to go now. But definitely in the future, I'll be much more willing to play it when I end up getting a nice, strong Hellion start. Looking forward to it, honestly. So for now, we're just going to continue playing our strongest board. End up buying these two Dawnbringers and the chance they could make 2 stars to power us up. And then I keep the Aatrox because when I level up to level 5, I can put him in with Kalista to have 2 Legionnaire. So this person's already managed to get their Draconic units, as well as having Skirmisher for their composition that you can see on the bench with those 4 units. So I'm not exactly sure what they're going to be running, but I am sure that it's going to be difficult to match them as the game goes on. So here we're really looking for a sword. If I can't get the sword, I'd also love to get the Shadow Bow. If I can't get either of those, then it's possible I could look for the Spatula. Looks like I managed to get the Shadow Bow. So I'm a little bit conflicted here, as I do have a Riven, and I could go up to 4 Legionnaires immediately, which I will try for the round. But as well, I've ended up finding myself with 3 Brawlers. Unfortunately, since I don't have the Draconic units, I don't feel nearly as compelled to go for Draconic this game. So I think what I'll end up doing is I'll start looking to itemize Riven here. And I will sell these spare units to be able to break 10 gold. The reason why I'm keeping the brand, and specifically a spare Gragas, is because if I want to play Abominations with Riven, I also can. So we'll have to see what happens, because all I really need to find is a sword and another magic resist, and I'm feeling really, really happy with our chances here. I think unfortunately I may have to end up selling this brand here to stay at 20 gold for the breakpoint. That's okay. We already have 4 Legionnaires. We're pretty comfortable just going for a Legionnaire build. And if we don't break 30 gold here, I can always just buy the other brand. Wow. So we get really lucky here in finding many, many more Kalista. And another Gragas. So I do feel like this is the correct play of just making ourselves the Abomination, still keeping Legionnaire, and the potential of a 3-star Kalista so early is very, very strong. No problem. See you in a bit. We've managed to make it above 50 gold now, which is great. So all we need to do is just play the waiting game. And from here, we'll do a little bit of rolling to find another Gragas, and then we'll start looking to level towards level 7. In fact, it may just be wise to start looking to level regardless, since Riven is the core part of our composition. Knowing that we're first pick, if not second pick out of the carousel here, we're probably not going to end up getting a sword for Riven. Perfect, so we end up being third pick out on the carousel. Unlikely that we'll end up get the sword, so without that we may look to grab a different item, for example another bow. With the bow taken, we're happy to get the Shadow tier, knowing that we can put it on Brand, who will eventually be replaced by Rise. Hey, welcome back, Not Tonight. You didn't miss much. We just, we're only missing 2 Kalistas from a 3-star Kalista. We'll be looking to itemize her next, if and when we're able to get a sword for Riven. We're taking a couple losses because we're not quite as strong as we'd hoped to be, but next level we can put in set for 4 brawlers, which should really help us out with our front line. Yeah, as you can see, without Riven having a Bloodthirster, she just slowly gets whittled down by the opponents. Even though she's still able to do good amounts of damage. At 1 star. Yeah. So from here, our main goal is just to get to level 7 and get our 4 brawlers in. And then what we'll look to do is we'll look to start slow rolling for Riven, because that'll be our best point to try to get her to 3 stars. Considering the fact that we're slightly contested, we want to make sure we hit level 7 probably on the next round. And especially with us finding the sword, we're feeling very good about our chances for this game. So luckily we're also able to find Rise there. And we have 3 items for our Abomination, which means that we're feeling really confident that we should have the upper hand on these next couple fights. The only issue that we have is our Riven isn't at least 2 stars to be able to let her start really putting out the damage. Considering we already managed to hit so many of our power spike items, as well as 3 items for the Abomination, I'm not too sure what I would want to grab here in terms of items from the armory. I think I'm going to end up going with the gloves, because they could potentially become a Thieves' Gloves, which would be a great way to round out an additional unit in our composition. Perfect. So what we can look to do to keep above 30 gold is just to sell the spare Lulu, knowing that at level 8 we can put in any Mystic, even though Lulu would be ideal. And because we end up having the Rise already, we're feeling pretty good. What I'm gonna do for now, because I think Warwick would end up coming out at level 8 to switch with Volibear, is I'm gonna just put the Thieves' Gloves on him. But as we can see, we're fairly contested in that 2 other players are also going Riven. With that, I'm not exactly sure what would be the best plan to either try going for 3 stars, or if we should just if we should just look to go to level 8. Considering this person's playing Spellweavers with their Abomination. We're, of course, playing Riven with Brawler and Abomination. This person's playing Draconic Set. This person's playing Hellions. This person's playing Reroll Cavaliers. This person's playing Hellions. And this is the other opponent that we have who's going our Legionnaires. So I actually think, looking at that, we can stay here for a while, and we're fine to be able to just roll at level 7. Considering we have so much health to play with and we're only contested by 1 other player. So thankfully, with the Runon's Untamed Hurricane, this shadow item that we have on our Riven, she's able to hit 3 people, and even though the other 2 people only take 50% of her damage, when she casts her spell, she goes up to about 344 AD, which means they're still taking high amounts of damage. If we're able to, that Volibear with the Shadow Crit Glove is the absolute perfect item for us. Highly unlikely that we'll be able to get it, but we have to call it out. Now that that's off the table, we could look for the armor on the Viego, as it is a high cost unit. It would make Shroud. If we can't get that either, then we may look to something like just general, like the bow. But we are able to get the armor, and that means we have a Shroud, one of the most powerful items as the game goes on, because we can debilitate entire enemy team comps. Without wasting any time, I'm going to put the Shroud out, and I'm going to do a little bit of scouting to see where most people's carries are, and it looks like a lot of the opposition have their units well lined up for us to be able to just shroud them as is. As you can see here, we hit Nunu, Set, and Ivern with the Shroud, which should really help us in staying alive at the start here. Unfortunately, Riven wasn't able to cast there, so I do think this will be a bit of a harder loss. But we only actually end up losing by 1 unit, which for us, we're really happy to see. That's the best loss we could have taken. Unfortunate that it is a loss, but we're not too mad about it, all things considered. Yeah, and as you can see, I haven't been too worried about repositioning the Shroud, as, for example, against this opponent, we were able to use the Shroud on both the Hecarim and the Brand in the backline, delaying both their frontline tanking as well as their backline burn that they had going. We're a little bit concerned that we haven't been hitting any Rivens, but it's not the end of the world for us for now. Our big problem is going to be that the opposing Set player has managed to hit 3 stars, which is where he really comes online. So finding both of those along with a 1% Volibear is really a big pickup for us. It means that our Kalista will start throwing out much more powerful spears. We're going to have a Rise that will actually be able to start applying large amounts of crowd control because he should stay alive longer with the health. And this Volibear ideally will be able to get a cast off now, and he'll have a much stronger impact on the game, as you see here. Unfortunately, I do think we lose here just because it's a Mordekaiser. But it's a close loss once again, and that just gives us more time. So personally, looking at the opposing board states, no matter how much I would love to go for Riven, it doesn't really seem like we're finding her, so we may need to start looking to level to 8 here so we don't fall too far behind on the game state. The only reason why I'm hesitant to just do that is at level 8, all we'd be throwing in is another Mystic. Yes, that does give 40 magic resistance, and yes, there are Ziggs players as well as what will eventually be Teemo players. But from what I've noticed, most of the compositions... Actually, I was going to say they haven't been super magic damage focused, but it's about a 50-50 split here. We're a mixed... This comp is mostly physical, this comp's physical, this composition is magic damage, this composition is magic damage, this composition was magic damage, and the person in the last is also running a magic damage composition. So we'll be looking to probably put in Mystic at level 8. I know Lulu's considered the strongest Mystic just because she ends up polymorphing the opponents. So we will look to get her and put her in at level 8 eventually. Looks like our opponent quit the second we went into a round, so it gives us a free win. We're happy to see it. And so far we're top 6 with the potential to even be top 5. We'll see what happens. The 2 Hellion players are versing off. I'm really interested to see what happens, but seeing as the one with much more health has a Teemo, I believe it's all but over for the opposing player. Now, so top 5 we are. If possible, the item we would want most would be that Darius there with the armor. If we couldn't get that, we'd also like the Rise with the ability power. Or even this Shadow ability power here. We'll have to see. Yep, so we'll take that ability power and thank you. I'm glad you approve of my health total. Really, we aim to please here. What can I say? And I actually think that since this is going to give maximum health, I'm going to give this item to Nunu. It may end up going on the Abomination, but it's still considered a pretty defensive item, all things considered. I don't actually believe we're going to be going for a 3-star rise here, so I may end up selling it, but for now it's not really doing anything to our economy. Now it looks like when we verse this player again as our Riven opponent, we had a much easier time just because of the crowd control that we were able to provide with the 2-star rise. We didn't even need the Abomination to come out, so we're feeling pretty great. But yeah, just putting even the single item on our 3-star Kalista really has just increased her damage so much and made her a viable backline attack carry, or AD carry for us. Wow. So we ended up hitting another 1% Volibear. Extremely unlikely for us here, but we're always happy to see it. I think no matter what we sell the Rise here, if we win, we end up getting back to 40 gold, which is great. but the fact that we found another 1% Volibear is really unlikely, but we're still really happy about it, so we'll take it. Thankfully, we're finally able to focus down the opponent's Teemo, and our composition with the Abomination variant of Riven is actually feeling quite strong in the lobby. You have to understand the surprise in my voice is solely coming from the fact that we played Riven twice the other night, and both times we ended up playing her, it really didn't end up panning out for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that second Ginsu's onto Kalista again, as the item does stack. Giving her more ability power and attack speed is totally fine, and it won't give us any more variance on our Abomination. I know there's a Teemo in the shop, and I know I could buy it, because I do have the highest health in the game, but I don't really want to break the health on this special number until it ends up happening naturally. And look at that, because we didn't, we doubled up. I'll take a quick print screen of that, and we'll move on with the game. Super surprising, but unfortunate that we don't end up finding any more Rivens. There we are. So we managed to hit a 3-star Nunu, which extremely tanky and quite a high damage that he can put out. And I'm interested to see how much health he ends up getting here. He goes 39-16 up to 41-61, and with the health that he ends up gaining, it only makes his bite even stronger. I still think we're going to lose just because of the nature of the opponent's reroll composition with a 3-star Hecarim, 3-star Sejuani, 3-star Brand, but we're not going down without a fight. Perfect, and our opponent, who's been also collecting Rivens, will be out soon. So we're feeling a lot better about our chances here. Unfortunately, we weren't able to find any more Rivens there, or even a Volibear as a 1% where we found 2 Darius. And then at level 8, we're going to look to put in either Lulu or Leona, just another Mystic in general. So we got really lucky on this round, where our Kalista's spear was able to tear right through the opponent's set, and we end up coming out with a win on the round. And our opponent, who ended up having the Rivens and stopping us, has been knocked out. So as you can see there, we found another Volibear, which gave us a 2-star, surprisingly, with a 1% chance. And we're only 1 Riven away from 3 stars, which would increase her attack damage bonus from 100 to 150%. We also managed to secure top 4, which, as always, is a win in my book. This will be a really interesting fight, as we see our opponent's Teemo is very, very ready to stack the spell power and attack speed. Unfortunately, it's looking like we do take a bit of a loss here, and that's okay. It's to be expected without our Riven to power us up and without our extra unit in. Since we have pretty much free reign of whatever option we'd want to go for here, we definitely want to grab a defensive item. I'm not exactly sure which one we want to go for. What we can also do is just grab the spatula, as that would set our Volibear to be a Dawnbringer and let him stay alive just a little bit longer. I think what I'm going to have to stop doing here is rolling, because we should not be able to get knocked out on the next 2 rounds, and with that extra money we can look to get to level 8, put in another Mystic, and from there we'll be happy to just make our way looking for Riven. If we're able to find Riven, I do think we can win the game. We'll just have to see what we get with our luck. Because until then, I just don't think we do enough damage with Riven. As you can see, our Riven was barely even able to beat through Kled by the time she got knocked out. What even is this comp? Hey Matt Jar, thanks for joining. So basically the composition is Abominations with Riven. So you have a 4 brawler frontline, the 3 Abominations, and you aim for a 3-star Riven to be able to get her 150% bonus attack damage, and it really lets her be able to be the normally solo physical damage carry. We also have a 3-star Nunu, who happened to be itemized with things like Archdemon Staff to be able to just deal progressively larger bites. And we have a 3-star Kalista, who's throwing out, I don't know, 1500 damage spears and progressively just attacking faster and faster to be our backline carry. So we have a bit of a mixed damage composition that has been working really well for us so far. And it ended us up in a top 3, if not top 2. Yep, we ended up in a top 2 position. Very unfortunate that we haven't been able to find the Riven, but all things considered, we're pretty happy with how the composition has turned out for us. What I'll look to do with the spare gold here is I will look to go to level 8, and then look to try to find another Mystic to put in, knowing that our opponent's composition is very heavy with magic damage, with Heimerdinger, Volibear, and Teemo being major threats. Perfect, so we end up getting a Nikos, meaning that I have 0 problems with just leveling and getting ourselves a 3-star Riven. Regardless of what ends up happening in this fight, I'm happy with the way things have turned out. It's unfortunate that we weren't able to just grab another unit from the shop to match and get the Mystic in, but... So, the reason why I ended up getting a 2-star Volibear at level 7 was just because we were rolling for so long that we were on level 7 for most of stage 5 and stage 6. I mean, statistically speaking, it wasn't the most likely that we'd come up with something like exactly a Volibear, but we ended up seeing 2 Darius as well. It's not super unlikely. But yeah, we're always happy with the way this turned out, and it's a great 2nd place finish to start the night off. Perfect. I'm going to take a quick break, just a quick 1-2 minutes. Get up, stretch legs, grab a snack. Hopefully you all can do the same. I'll see you back soon. Alright, and we're back. Hopefully you're all able to get a little snack, get a little stretch, and get ready for the next game. Here we go. Alright, as we get into the game without much of a delay at all, let's just remind ourselves what we're doing tonight. We're looking to play as strategic of a game as possible. That means going for items as soon as we can, compositions that we just manage to find along the way, and we want to make sure that we're playing just good games, scouting, doing everything we need to get those wins, or at least top 4. If it was up to me and it was like the Chosen mechanic of last set, I would definitely be looking to go for something like a Draconic Chosen. But since we don't have that luxury, we'll just have to see what we find. So with such an aggressive sword start, I immediately think to myself something like a Draven carry or Legionnaires. It could also potentially be something like just a Nightbringer Aphelios game, or even Varus, knowing that he's kind of taken Kael's spot now that rerolling is so much more plausible. And we get lucky here finding 3 brawlers, so it's very possible we could look to go the brawler Riven composition again, depending what we end up finding. I do want the early level as that can give us the best chance of pulling ahead in the game, and then I want to try and keep as strong a board as we can here, potentially looking for magic resistance to make a Bloodthirster in the armory or in the first carousel. Unfortunately, even with our early level, we may end up just losing here, as our opponent managed to get a 2-star on their backline carry and their frontline carry, which is just too much for our composition to handle. We're fine to take the Crit Glove here, as that means we can make an Infinity Edge, which definitely means we want to go something like either a set carry or potentially just a Draven carry. And I think this game could be good for Draven, as we're getting a bunch of early Forgotten units, so I think that's what I'm going to look to go for here. I'm also just going to put in Thresh and get 3 Forgotten going for our bonus, and put the spare health on Gragas so he can stay alive a little bit longer. In terms of what I want to do next with the composition, I'm not actually sure if I want to buy the set as well as the Victor or do 2 Victors, but I think the set's probably fine because we could do a 4 brawler frontline in the mid game. Without having much of a better unit to put in at level 5, I think for now the best thing we can do is grab the Varus. We can get 2 Rangers in, which will let Vayne be a nice backline carry just to get us through the early game here. So once again, going into Carousel, the biggest thing we're looking for here is magic resistance, regular or shadow, and then beyond that we're probably looking for something like attack speed, or health even, to make Mordekaiser into a much better frontline tank. So we're able to get the magic resistance, and we feel pretty happy with it, knowing that we can put it on to Draven to make him into a very viable frontline carry, or sorry, backline carry, or we could even put both of these same items that are on Vayne onto Set if we get lucky to find more Draconics, and turn this into a Set game. In the meantime, however, I will level and put in Varus, as that gives us 2 Ranger and makes it very, very strong for our Vayne here. The only reason why I'm not selling the Zyra immediately is just because if I find something like an Udyr or an Ashe, then I can put Set and Zyra in, and with our 3 brawlers, I feel still confident that I could go for Draconic Set and it's not too late for us. Looks like there are 2 other players going for Set, and since we found a 2% Draven, I feel much more confident just staying with Draven. Which also means that the first thing I want to do is swap a Legionnaire in. And then I can look to sell the Zyra, I can look to sell the Sets. I'll keep the Forgotten units, as that could potentially give me 6 Forgotten in the mid game. And then what I'll look to do is I'll look to swap out the Aatrox with Mordekaiser once I end up finding him as another Legionnaire. And from there, we're just going to look to start leveling once we get above 50 gold again. As that 2% chance of Draven has firmly solidified what we want to go for our composition here. Also, managing to find a 2% rise is just genuinely absurd. The easiest way that I can put this is, now that we've found both Rise and Draven, the only other Forgotten unit that we would want is Viego. In the meantime, however, we also have Warwick, Thresh, and we could even use Victor. So we actually already have up to 6 Forgotten if we find one more, which is crazy to me. And there it is. So in the meantime, I'm not sure if it's going to be our strongest board, but I definitely want to test it. And I'm going to end up putting in the 6 Forgotten here. Since we're so early along in the game, there's actually a decent chance that we could end up finding shadow items to make use of this, and we could look to go 6 Forgotten and Friends, which would mean including Mordekaiser for Frontline and a Legionnaire, as well as, for example, a Rel to give us Cavalier, or even Nautilus Rel for Cavalier plus Ironclad. We'll have to see what happens in the composition. I'm not super sold on staying in Forgotten, as I know they're much weaker since we have 0 shadow items, but we'll have to see. That's going to give us a Warmogs, which is very, very good for us, that we can put it on Mordekaiser to make him into the frontline tank that we want him to be. Since his spell just gives him shielding based on his max health, and Warmog's just going to boost that health by a nice 1,000. Yeah, thanks to Bloodthirster Infinity Edge, even at 1 star, Draven's still able to completely break down the opponent's front line. I'm not quite sure what I want to turn this magic resist into, but the reason why I'm not slamming items yet is because if we end up getting a Shadow Sword on the carousel, we can make a Forgotten Spatula, and that means we can go 9 Forgotten while adding in another Legionnaire. Or even just stay at 6 Forgotten while adding a lot more flexibility to our composition. We'll have to see what we find on the carousel here, seeing that we're definitively in the top 4, potentially in the top 2 for getting items on carousel. So there is no Shadow Sword, which is fine. We're not overly worried about that. So what we'll do is we'll take the Shadow ability power. I believe that does make a Dragonslayer spatula, and that could be very interesting if we wanted to have a bit of fun with it. Yeah, a Dragonslayer's emblem. Which means that when we do find Mordekaiser, we could potentially make another unit of Dragonslayer anyway. For example, someone like Rise, who really likes the ability power. That also gives our entire team a Forgotten bonus, so they will get an extra 7 attack damage and ability power here. Unfortunately, the Kalista got her spear off just in time and we did find ourselves with a loss, but we're not overly worried about it as we do have our 30 gold breakpoint and we're already on our way towards getting to 50 gold to level aggressively towards level 8. We could potentially stop to roll at level 7 to find a Mordekaiser, as that would give us Dragonslayer as well as Legionnaire. And at level 8, we would look to replace Viego in for Victor. And we would also look to include someone like potentially Tarek as another knight, or even Rel for Cavalier. What we could look to do as well, if we end up finding 2 stars on our other units, is we could potentially look to go for level 9, knowing that we can actually just use the 6 Forgotten units, as well as Mordekaiser, Diana, and probably Pantheon, to be able to get to 4 Dragonslayer. Now, I'm not sure how powerful that would be, as that is going to just give everybody additional ability power, and I know Draven's a physical damage carry for our competition. But the bonus damage that he deals is based on ability power. Rise will be very heavily focused with ability power. Thresh and Hecarim will also get values from it. So I think it's not out of the realm of possibility of something we can look to do here. Perfect, and now we have 2 items for whenever we find Mordekaiser, knowing that we can give him a Gunblade as well as a Warmogs, making him a very, very durable frontliner. We still need to be mindful, however, as we don't actually have a 3rd item for Draven here, and we want to make sure we grab one. So I'm not sure what item... Sorry, I just looked at the board and I realized that I can stay above 30 gold to level, so I wanted to make sure to, as it will drastically increase our chances of finding forecasts, as well as giving us Cavalier and just a very powerful frontline unit in Rel. I do believe just throwing the Shadow Glove on Draven is fine here, because what can end up happening is we could make it potentially into Shadow Quicksilver, ideally a Shadow Last Whisper, and that would be totally fine with us to be able to power up our composition as much as possible. No matter how unfortunate it would be for us for our health, we do want to take a couple of losses here just to be able to get a better pick. In the end, if we do come out with a win here, we'll take it, but it's definitely not what we're hoping for. Seeing as our opponent has Teemo, he always wins 1v1s, and for the first time in this stream, we're actually able to see what happens. So here we just need to preserve our gold, preserve our life if we can, and what we'll look to do is we'll just look to get to 50 and then start leveling to 8 as we found 2 stars on all of our units that we would want to at this level. So going into carousel here, once again, we'd love to grab the bow. Unfortunately, we may not be able to. And if we don't, we'll just look to grab the Viego, as that would be an amazing pickup for our composition. Thankfully, we do grab the bow, and we feel great about having near perfect items on Draven. And from there, we know we can use the Gunblade as well as the Warmogs for our Mordekaiser whenever we end up finding him. Now, considering we know we want to run Mordekaiser, and we're looking to keep our 6 Forgotten, I don't actually want to put these items out on anybody at the moment. The only one I could look to spare would be the magic resistance, but even still, if that turns into something like Gargoyles or Dragon's Claw, or even a Quicksilver, I'd be really happy to just put that on Mordekaiser. Yeah, as you can see, the biggest problem with our composition is we're just not strong enough at the moment. And what that ends up coming down to is we just get torn apart by the opponent's front line. So that means that at level 8, what we may have to do is just look for a 2-star Draven before we push to level 9, since he does have damage items and is enough of a threat to be able to carry us through to level 9. Our positioning doesn't look too great against Set, however, so we'll have to see if our Draven can just defeat him before he's able to really get going, and he does. Perfect. Thanks to the Victor Shields with that 6 Forgotten, we're able to barely hold on and close out that round. Which means we should be able to hit level 8 by stage 5-1, which is very well on pace with what we would like to do normally. Also, finding this extra Draven here really helps us out in knowing that we can find 2-star Draven with relative ease without having to waste too much gold rolling at level 8 as we'll look to push to 9. Just a little unfortunate here that we still haven't seen anything like Mordekaiser. But we find our second spatula of the night, and I'm not sure what to do with that, to be quite honest.
Ready to put your budget into gear. TD Ready advice. If you're ready to make a budget, a TD advisor can help you with personalized financial advice.
So I'm not sure who would do best with this Gargoyles, and it's either going to be Mordekaiser or Hecarim. So what I will end up doing is I'm going to put it on Hecarim here, just to diversify our front line. Now, unfortunately, our opponent's one-punch set is online after getting him to 3-star, and we weren't able to find Draven on our light roll there, so we may actually have to end up doing a bit of a heavier roll, to hope that we can get the Draven to stabilize, as we will then start looking towards level 9. Alright, as I say it, we find it. We end up hitting our 2-star Draven, which means that we are feeling much more comfortable, as our only real upgrades would be looking to find Viego, looking to find Diana, Pantheon. So for now, we'll stay at our 30 gold, we'll work ourselves back up to 50, and then we'll look to start going towards level 9. We're also just going to give the Spat of Shame over to Victor here, as he's not really doing much for us. The fact that our opponent's got a very powerful Varus is quite scary for us, but as you can see, Draven just puts in so much work that we end up eliminating our opponent, making us feel even better about getting a top 4. These rounds are definitely starting to get scarier, that's for sure. The only reason why I'm holding on to Morgana here is because at level 9, I could look to just throw her in as an extra Mystic. She's not really hurting our economy here, so I just figured I'd leave it. I also just realized that our audio track ended up rolling over to Christmas, so I'm just gonna skip it. Yeah, I noticed that as well. So here we'd be happy with any shadow item, or even this frozen heart. So we'll have to see if we can get any of them. We're going to end up taking the frozen heart, as not only does that give us a 2-star rise, but that also gives us an item that we were actually happy to get. This also means I can sell Morgana if we lose to get above 50 gold, and then we can start looking to level towards level 9. And we'll just need to find a Pantheon and a Diana, either on the way or once we're there. Thankfully we had enough health before that we aren't totally lost now for our options here. And we're really hopeful we can either hold out long enough or even just start winning enough to be able to get up to level 9. Unfortunately, we now see the reason why we've had so much trouble in finding different units, and that we've actually been contested. As we take a very hard loss there, it's really unfortunate because that means that we are very likely to go out 5th here if we're not able to do a little bit more. Seeing as we need to hold on for this next level, what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my positioning slightly. As we know, there is a one-punch set player, and we don't really want to leave Draven in the chances of getting absolutely nuked by him. unfortunately, we end up taking a loss, and I believe we go out in 5th. Yep. We end in a little bit dissatisfactory 5th place. I don't totally mind overall, considering we saw just too late that we were contested and that we weren't able to quite get the units that we needed. But overall, we're still happy with our performance, happy with the way that we worked with our items and our units. And we feel pretty good. With that, we have a TFT Pass reward to claim. We ended up getting one of the most hilarious emotes that I have seen in a long time. I think it speaks for itself. Just before we get into the next game, let's make sure we throw that onto our emote wheel. And let's start the game. And here we go, into our third and final game of the evening. Here we go, into this last game of the evening. Let's see what we're able to do. So normally I don't love making Udyr into 2 stars, and I may look to regret it later even, but for now I want to see just what I end up finding here, and having a 2-star in the early game, especially one like Udyr who can do some decent work early, is better to have than not. I think looking back realistically, I should have sold the Udyr with the glove as well as bought both of the Gragas and the Warwick, as that would have been 2 brawlers, and finding a set would put me very close to being able to actually just go Draconic this game, which is a personal favorite build of mine. Mind you, I do end up with 2 Skirmishers, so I don't sell them, and in fact I look to play them here, as this could very well be a Skirmisher game. And since you normally use Udyr to stack items for Jax, I can actually make this a Skirmisher game and still feel pretty good about it. I think what we can look to do here is just buy the Warwick and level, knowing that it's very unlikely that we'll end up going for a Draconic set, since we are a little bit late, but if we do find it, we'll still want to play it, as it is so much stronger than Skirmishers, especially in the current meta. It is the composition to beat. Now that we've been able to find ourselves a couple brawlers, we're feeling pretty good if we do end up finding the set. So here we find ourselves with 5 Skirmishers, which, to be honest, is a little bit crazy that we were able to hit all of these each so soon. Now, if possible on the carousel, I'd love to grab a Shadow Magic Resist, or potentially even a bow, as either of those will really help us for going Jax as a carry with our Skirmishers here. So there's both of a Shadow Magic Resist and a bow, so we'd like to take the Magic Resist first, and if not, we'd love to take the bow. Ironically enough, the Shadow Magic Resistance is on set, so it's actually still possible to go set here in terms of a composition, but with having 5 Skirmishers already, it's extremely unlikely for us to actually run this as a composition. So to make sure we stay above our gold break point, we'll probably want to just make the Risk Thirster sell the set. Buy the Cannon, and also buy the Gragas as he's looking to be our front line for the moment. From here, all we're really looking for are bows, regular or shadow, but we'll take whatever we can get. The reason why I'm grabbing the extra Udyrs here is if I get a second 2-star Udyr, I can look to just sell him if I do end up finding Jax. So finding the Zyra here is far too late to go Draconic, especially considering we didn't quite have enough swords, so I'm fine with my decision there. What I will look to do, however, is I'm actually just going to make Thieves' Gloves and throw those onto Nidalee for now, knowing that she can make use of them, since they are going to give her an increased dodge chance of 15%, and she's all about trying to dodge. So thankfully, with the Skirmisher attack damage boost, Udyr is able to clean up the rest of that game, and we're able to find ourselves a win. We are a little bit sad about having so many pairs, but we're hopeful that as we work our way up towards 50 gold that we'll find ourselves a nice match. So now we find ourselves with pretty much every pair that we could have here in these 4 units, as well as just the Trundle to make ourselves a 5th Skirmisher and a 2nd Dragonslayer. If we end up finding another Skirmisher, such as Lee Sin even, we'll just level to 6 here, as that 6 Skirmisher buff will be more powerful than the 4 Skirmisher plus 2 Dawnbringer. So from here, all we need to do is look to get to 50 gold, get to level 6, and then we'll start doing a bit of rolling to make sure we can find ourselves at least another level, another 2-star unit, as right now we are really feeling weak. We may end up leveling as early as 3-3, even though we should be leveling by 3-5, just so we can preserve our health a little bit in the event that we're able to find anything to upgrade our composition. As I say that, we find ourselves up against a player who turns out to be weaker than we are, so we're happy that we come away with a win there, as it buys us a lot of time. So not tonight, I want to get your opinion here. How you enjoying the stream? Liking it? Not too much? How you feeling? Oh good, I'm glad you've been enjoying it. So the second I saw the Lee Sin in the shop, without hesitation, I just looked to level there, as that gives us our 6th Skirmisher, as well as our 2 Dragonslayer. I'm glad you're able to take this as a time to just relax and hang out. So going into carousel here, all we really want is the bow. If we're not able to get it, then we can look for a defensive item. Potentially something like this tier. And considering that'll give us a Frozen Heart, as well as Rel, who will be our level 7 inclusion to get Ironclad with Jax, we're pretty happy with how that turned out. So here it's really interesting because we're only one Udyr off from a 3-star, even though we will look to sell him as soon as we find a Jax. What it will really do is it'll help us in stabilizing. Also, I'm glad you're liking the music. So on stage 4-1, we'll look to level up to 7, and then we can start to look to put Rel in, and from there, we'll make our way to level 8, and we'll roll down all of our gold to try to find at least a Jax, if not a 2-star Jax. The best we can really do is just hope for a win here, as that'll give us our 40 gold breakpoint. If we're not able to get the win, we're a little bit sad, but it's not the end of the world. But especially considering our Nidalee with Thieves' Gloves and our 6 Skirmisher power, it seems like we didn't have too much trouble at all. Perfect. We also managed to find a 2-star Lee Sin, giving us most of our units at 2 stars, something that I didn't think I'd be able to say when we came into stage 3-1, and knowing that we wanted to spend as much gold as we could with just rolling. Oh, sorry, with just leveling. I'd say I'm at a loss for words, but I don't know if that justifies it. We have the chance of a Skirmisher emblem, which means that we could completely remove a spare Skirmisher from our composition. I'm not sure if we'd even want to, though. Too bad we didn't find a Jax there at all, but knowing that we have the Skirmisher emblem makes things change a little bit, because what I might end up doing is going for 4 Dragonslayers. Now, the reason why is because I can make Mordekaiser into a Skirmisher, and it really could make him more durable, and we were able to actually find 2 Mordekaisers right there. Just unfortunate that we're very quickly running out of health. For now, I'll take out Trundle. I know I want to keep him though to get him 2 stars, but for now I'll take out Trundle. Because I'd look to take out Nidalee and replace it with Viego, and then at level 8 what we can do is we can just throw in Diana. We also know we're not going to go for Udyr anymore now that we have our Skirmishers that we want. Nor do we particularly need Kennen. So from here, all I need is a good 3rd item for Jax. If I really wanted to, or if I really have to, I can just put a Quicksilver on him. It's not the worst item in the world. But we'll have to see. Also, I'm genuinely surprised that someone has a Zephyr in the lobby. I didn't think they'd go for it. So from here on out, I'll have to start looking much more aggressively at scouting in the late game. As it didn't make a difference this round, but it will in the future. Alright, going into Carousel, I'd love to grab that bow on the Hecarim. If we're not able to grab that, then we'll just take the Diana if possible, as that will give us the last unit that we would need. I do believe also that they changed Shadow Trap Claw with the Crit Glove and the Shadow Belt. I'll have to read what its effect is in a second by hovering, but I think it will be really good for us here. I don't think Diana's the right person to put it on. I think it would have been much better on someone like Mordekaiser, but I do think grabbing that Shadow Belt was the right choice. And from here, we just need to get to 50 gold, and then start looking to level towards level 8, which we will end up forcing the level on stage 5-1, regardless of our wins or losses. Also, knowing that we're going for the Dragonslayer variant of the composition, I don't actually think we're going to be playing this Nautilus. Because unless we're able to replace yet another Skirmisher, I don't see us being able to put 3 Ironclad in. For now, however, it's not making a difference in our breakpoint, though it might on the next round here if we find a unit to buy like Trundle or Mordekaiser or Diana or Jax. Excuse me as I just quickly swap our Nidalee over, as most people are actually stacking on this corner for their compositions. And since we'll be saving up approximately 20 gold, we should have no problem just pushing our level to 8 after this. I've never actually seen an ability power of Felios. I don't really think it's very good from what I just saw. But maybe there's just too many shields right now on our composition, so we'll have to see. Yeah, it didn't end up panning out for our opponent, unfortunately. But fortunate for us is we're able to stay alive and start working towards level 8. Here we did end up finding a bow, but since we're not going to get any more item components, we're a little bit sad. What we also have to do here is just make sure we put in our main units. And what I'll also do is I'll sell the Nidalee and put the Thieves' Gloves on... I believe Kennen's the right choice, as I'll look to get rid of him if I find a Viego. Seeing as I know no one else really goes Lee Sin, I wanted to just start stacking items on him because it could turn him into a potential carry. I do want to get items on my Jax eventually, or rather a third item on my Jax eventually, but I'm not going to actually do that until after Carousel on stage 5, because there's a decent chance I could get an item that would really help my Jax here. Otherwise, I'll just put a Quicksilver on him and I'll feel decent about that. As you can see, we managed to hit the 2-star Mordekaiser, which is great for us, as well as hitting ourselves one more Lee Sin. And if we get our Lee Sin to 3 stars, I'll put the Thieves' Gloves on him, and that will be fine to make him potentially an alternate carry for us. So we managed a huge pickup in getting a 2-star Jax, as well as being only 1 Lee Sin away from 3 stars. Seeing as Lee Sin will be able to use ability power, mana, as well as attack damage, I do think that it'll be great to have him as a Thieves' Gloves holder. I know we ended up dropping lower on our gold, but I don't think we'll end up going to level 9 anyway, just because we'll want to be looking to roll for our carries here in probably Jax and Mordekaiser. So all we really want on Jax in terms of a carry item is either a rapid fire cannon or something to keep him alive longer. Because he already has the healing and he already has the ability to hit multiple targets. That's all we'd really need. So let's see what we can find in this carousel. So since there's no rapid fire cannon, we could look for something even like that Cavalier spatula, which is gone unfortunately. Without that as well, I may end up just taking the Locket of the Silver Lunari, because it'll give resistances to our entire front line. And that will make Jax tankier innately. I've got to be honest, I'm extremely surprised that I haven't, there it is, that I haven't seen the Lee Sin. Now we feel pretty good about finding that Lee Sin. And I would like to buy this Mordekaiser, but I don't think it's worth locking the shop. So I'm just gonna wait. Knowing that Jax is the real unit that we would want to look to 3-star. I'm also going to turn this bow into a unstable Zuzurot, just because that could give us another way to chip down our opponents. We still want Viego to be able to replace Kennen, and potentially we want to get a 2-star Rel, but we're feeling really good about our spot in the game. All the poor ghosts at the bottom. Yeah, the river sprites, unfortunately, it never really panned out for them this game. We were barely able to get through that Draven in time, but I think we would have still been okay because Mordekaiser was still standing strong. But yeah, you can really see the amount of damage that was just mitigated. Like, just thanks to this Locket of the Silver Lunari alone, just increasing our resistances so much. That Infinity Edge coming through is pretty good. I'm not quite sure who I'd put it on. If I had Viego, it would definitely go on him, because then his spell would be guaranteed to crit since we have 2 assassin, and we'd be able to start stealing our opponent's units. We'll have to see what ends up happening and if we can find a Viego, because we're going to be staying at level 8, so we're only going to have 5% chance to find it, or to find him rather. Yeah, sorry about that. I just noticed I skipped a Diana. I thought I had her 2 stars. I didn't. That's on me. I should have picked up the Diana. I know Diana and Rel are the 2 units I'm still looking to upgrade. So we'll have to see what happens here. It also may soon be time for me to just get another cannon the next time one shows up, sell the one I have on the board, and put the Thieves' Gloves on Lee Sin so he can potentially start being the carry that we want him to be. Regardless, we managed to hit top 4, which we're always happy to see. I'm not sure if waiting for this Diana is actually the right play. So I'm not going to lock the shop here. Let's see how we fare against our next opponent. Unfortunately, they managed to do reroll Cavaliers with a 3-star Victor, as well as getting the Cavalier Spatula onto the Darius for frontline. We may end up going out here in 4th place. Yep. By just 1 health over, we end out the game and the night in 4th place. But overall, we're still feeling pretty good with how we ended up. We ended up at 30 LP on the night with a great 2nd place finish, followed by a 5th and a 4th, leaving us pretty close to where we started there. Hopefully, we're able to enjoy the stream, maybe even learn something new, and just come along for the ride with our Strategic Sunday with some, as always, casual and fun music. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great night. And I hope you have a great start to your week tomorrow. Take care.